You saw it, the game opened with tension, an early interception that could have rattled any team, and for a moment it felt like the narrative might flip against us. But right there is where you saw something different, a collective refusal to panic. Schottenheimer said it plainly after the game: they're playing with confidence, they're executing, and the defense is playing with a violent edge that's contagious. That's more than coach speak. It's the exact attitude that turns a bad start into a statement. Doc's interception early was a textbook example of him trying to make a big throw and getting baited. But what mattered wasn't the mistake, it was his response. You heard it in the press conference: headset issues, a few curse words, and then the veteran calm. He and his coaches had the trust to take aggressive shots later because they believed in the guys around him. That trust showed on the field the next drive, when the offense settled into a rhythm and started to impose itself. Physically, when you watch the tape, you see play calling that was confident, not reckless, and an offensive line that began to find an identity in the run game and in keeping Doc upright. That early sequence also revealed the locker room heartbeat. These men play for each other, they honor what they've been through, and they refuse to let emotion become a liability. I want you to tell me in the comments, did Doc answer the critics tonight? Yes or no, I'll be reading those, and if you want more post-game breakdowns that dig into both the X's and O's and the emotional currents behind wins like this, hit subscribe and ring notifications. We're pushing to 17,000 subscribers, and every new fan helps us keep this content rolling. Quick note before we move on: which single play told you the team wasn't going to panic? Drop that play in the comments right now. Now let's flip the tape and talk defense, because this stretch the unit's been on is the real reason this felt like a statement. When you remember Schottenheimer's line, "I see violence, I see passion," and that wasn't hyperbole. It was a snapshot of a front that is suddenly tackling, communicating, and finishing plays in ways that change entire drives. From the way they were winning third downs to the big fourth down stands that flipped field position, this defense remade critical moments when the offense needed breathing room. You saw Clowney out there with relentless pursuit, using counters and feel to get after the passer, but it wasn't just the start plays, it was the fundamentals. They shed blocks, they wrapped up, and they played with the kind of physicality that forces opponents into longer, riskier drives. That confidence shows up in practice, too. The coaches talked about how the communication has cleaned up and how the unit's tackling has tightened, little details that add up to huge stops late in games. What I loved watching was how those stops fed the offense, turned the ball over on a short field, and suddenly your play calling opens up. Get a fourth down stop, you get a momentum swing that lasts to drives. That complementary football is what turns a good win into a statement. Think about the way they handled third down situations tonight, getting off the field more often, forcing punts instead of late clock miracles. That's the kind of improvement that shows a defense trending in the right direction, not just having a hot night. I want you to tell me who you thought the defensive and sung hero was. Name one player in the comments, and while you do that, vote in the poll. Is this the best defensive stretch of the season for the Cowboys? Yes or no? If you like breakdowns like this, hit that subscribe button and help push us towards 17,000 subscribers so we can keep delivering deep looks at what really swung games like this. And if a defensive stop gave you chills tonight, smash the like button so more fans see the breakdown. Before we move on to the offense and Doc's clutch moments, one quick point: this defense isn't just playing fast, they're playing smarter together, and that's a long-term difference. They're building trust in assignments, and when trust shows up on the field, it makes aggressive play calling from the offense sustainable. When you watch the tape later, look at the pursuit angles, the wrap-ups, and how pressure up front gave the linebackers cleaner chances to make plays. Those are the signs of a unit that's not just trending, it's becoming a strength you can rely on down the stretch. You know, when you talk about a win like this, you can't ignore how the Cowboys handled the pressure moments. And I want to walk you through something that really stood out because it shows exactly why this team might finally be turning a corner mentally. When things got tight, instead of folding, they responded with poise. Doc didn't force anything. He trusted the protection, trusted the reads, and trusted his playmakers. That calmness spread across the entire offense, and you could see it in the way the receivers ran their routes with confidence and the way the offensive line handled those late-game stunts from Kansas City. It felt like a group that believed in the plan instead of panicking. That's a small detail, but it's something championship teams display consistently. And on the defensive side, there's another element that deserves attention: discipline. This hasn't always been the most consistent area for Dallas, but in this game, when it mattered most, they tightened up. Fewer penalties, cleaner alignments, and smarter reactions to pre-snap motion. Kansas City thrives on creating confusion, but the Cowboys didn't bite on the eye candy. Sure, they gave up plays, that's normal when facing elite talent, but they didn't break. They played situational football, and that's how you beat a team like the Chiefs. Those stops on key third downs, those weren't accidents. Those were the result of communication, trust, and preparation. Let me ask you this. Do you think this version of the Cowboys' defense is finally showing signs of maturity, or do you feel like they still have a lot to prove? Drop a simple mature or prove it in the comments so I can see where you stand. It helps me understand how fans are feeling about this team's mindset, and I read every single one of your responses. Now, I'll tell you something that really grabbed my attention: the energy on the sideline. This team looked connected. They weren't dragging their heads after mistakes. They were talking, adjusting, encouraging each other. When a player made a big play, you saw the entire unit celebrating with him. That matters because energy becomes momentum, and momentum becomes belief. And belief is what closes out tight games. It's what turns potential into wins. Another moment that speaks volumes was how the Cowboys handled sudden change. That turnover in the second half could have flipped the entire game. In years past, you and I both know that might have been the moment where everything unraveled. But this time, the defense walked onto the field with intent. They didn't jog, they didn't look lost. They lined up, got aggressive, and forced a stop. That's the kind of response championship caliber teams have. Not perfect teams, but resilient ones. Before I move forward, let me give you a quick reminder. If you're enjoying this breakdown, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We're pushing hard towards 17,000 subscribers, and every person who joins gets us one step closer. If you like videos that actually talk football and not just headlines, you're in the right place. Hit that like button because it tells YouTube you want more Cowboys content. To wrap this part up, I think we're seeing something shift inside this locker room. It's not flashy. It's not something you'll see on a stat sheet, but it's real. It's composure, it's communication, it's confidence, and if they keep building on it, this one might end up being a turning point instead of just another highlight. And since we're talking about turning points, let's get into the part that really lit a fire under this team: the physicality. You could feel it from the opening drive. Dallas didn't just try to match Kansas City's toughness, they imposed theirs. The offensive line came out with a level of aggression we haven't consistently seen this season. They weren't catching blocks. They were delivering them. They moved defenders off their spots, created real lanes, and set a tone that carried through the entire game. That kind of physical edge changes everything because it forces the opponent to respect the run, and once they do, the whole playbook opens up. And I want to highlight something that might get overlooked: how much the receivers contributed to that physical style. It wasn't just catching the ball, it was blocking downfield, finishing plays, fighting for extra yards. That's the kind of gritty detail that separates role players from real difference makers. When you see a group blocking for each other with that kind of commitment, it tells you they're bought in. They're not just trying to make a play, they're trying to win together. Defensively, the physical tone was even more obvious. The linebackers were filling gaps with authority, the defensive line was shedding blocks instead of getting swallowed, and the secondary delivered hits that made the Chiefs think twice about crossing the middle. could tell Kansas City felt it. There were moments when their receivers hesitated just a split second, and in the NFL, the tiny hesitation can be the difference between a first down and a punt. That's not luck, that's physicality. Let me ask you something. Do you prefer the Cowboys playing with this bruising, aggressive style, or do you like the fast, finesse-heavy approach they've shown in past seasons? Give me a quick vote in the comments, physical or finesse. I'm curious which version you trust more heading into the rest of the season. Another thing worth noting is how the defensive front adjusted throughout the game. Early on, Kansas City tried to get cute with motion, misdirection, and quick throws. But Dallas didn't stay static. They shifted alignments, disguised pressures, and made Mams uncomfortable. Not by overwhelming him with blitz after blitz, but by mixing up looks, taking away his safety valves, and forcing him to make tough throws into tight windows. When you frustrate a quarterback like that, even just a little, things start falling apart for them. And you saw it happen. What I loved most, though, was the relentlessness. No matter how many yards Kansas City picked up, Dallas kept bringing that same level of intensity. They didn't wear down. If anything, they wore Kansas City down. And that's what allowed them to make the plays that mattered when the game hit crunch time. You can't fake that kind of stamina and will. It comes from preparation, conditioning, and belief in the system. Before we shift into the next major takeaway, let me remind you, if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect moment. We're on the road to 17,000, and your support genuinely helps this channel keep growing. And if this kind of deep dive into the Cowboys' identity is your style, hit the like button so we know to keep bringing more of it. All of this leads perfectly into what I want to explore next, the players who truly defined this win, because a game like this against a team like Kansas City doesn't happen without multiple stars stepping up and making statements. And that's exactly where we're heading next. Now that we've walked through the mindset, the physicality, and the identity this team showed, it's time to spotlight the players who absolutely stamped their names on this win. Because no matter how well coached a team is or how strong the game plan looks on paper, moments like this come down to players making plays when everything is on the line, and the Cowboys had several guys rise to the moment in ways that changed the entire energy of the game. You start with Dak Prescott, because everything Dallas wanted to accomplish flowed through his decision-making and his poise. This wasn't one of those performances where he needed to throw for 400 yards to look impressive. This was about control. He navigated pressure, used his legs when necessary, protected the football, and kept the offense rolling even when the Chiefs tried to bait him into mistakes. He didn't give in. He played quarterback the way a veteran who trusts his offense should play it. And that steadiness set the foundation for everything else. Then there was the ground game, and it deserves real credit. The running backs didn't just rack up numbers. They earned every yard, especially in the second half. They were patient when they needed to be, explosive when the lane opened, and physical all day long. You could see the Chiefs' front seven getting tired, getting frustrated because Dallas didn't abandon the run even when it wasn't pretty early. That commitment made all the difference late in the game. And the receivers this group continues to show that when they're locked in, they can dictate matchups. It wasn't just one guy carrying the load. It was everyone chipping in, stretching the field, attacking soft spots, and creating separation when the offense desperately needed a spark. Those clutch catches on third down, those tight window grabs near the sideline, those yards after contact speak volumes about how prepared they were for this matchup. They didn't just show up, they showed out. Defensively, a few standouts absolutely changed this game. The pass rush didn't allow Mams to get comfortable, and even on plays where they didn't get the sack, they got the disruption. Hits, hurries, collapsing the pocket, those things add up. And you saw how it affected Kansas City's timing. The linebackers cleaned up the middle of the field, and the secondary made some of the most disciplined plays we've seen from them all year. That breakup in the end zone, that open field tackle, That perfectly timed read on the short route, those are game-changing moments. Let me ask you directly, who was your personal MVP of the game? Drop the name in the comments. I want to see who you felt made the biggest impact, because honestly, you could make a strong argument for several different guys. And I'll feature the top fan picks in an upcoming breakdown. What really brings this entire win together is how many players contributed. This wasn't a two-man show. It wasn't Dallas relying on one superstar to drag the team across the finish line. This was a full roster stepping into the spotlight and saying, "We're not fading, we're not folding." We came to take this game, and that collective performance is exactly why this win feels so meaningful. It suggests this team is building something sustainable, something resilient, something dangerous. Before I close out, I want to give you that final nudge. If you're not subscribed yet, this is the moment. We're pushing for 17,000 subscribers, and your support genuinely helps the channel grow and keeps Cowboys coverage strong. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and stick with me because we're just getting started with the breakdowns this week.